Well, greetings everyone. Welcome to the Apptrepreneur Show. I am your host, Kevin the Apptrepreneur. This is where you go to get your near daily dose of apps, technology, and even a little bit of entertainment in there. Welcome, one and all. And yes, we are starting today's show a little early today. There are many reasons why. I've got some afternoon things going on. Also, because I want to get done early enough to watch this thing, Greyhound, Tom Hanks' new movie on Apple TV Plus, which if you don't have an Apple TV Plus subscription, there's a 7-day free trial for new users. Otherwise, it's $5 a month, which is less than a movie ticket. And no, this is not an advertisement for the site. I am not being paid. I just really love Tom Hanks. And personally, I wanted to see a movie like this in theaters, but it's not in theaters. So either way, I have to kind of free up my day so that I can make sure to watch that at some point. So anyway, thank you all for joining. I see we've got Michael Smith in the chat room. I see we have Tommy. I see we have Jeremy. So anyway, I see people are already making comments about the headline, and yes, we will obviously discuss that. We're totally going to discuss that. However, I know people are, well, let's get straight to the main topic at hand, which, this is probably the most driver-focused Uber topic I've done in a few weeks now. But Uber is expanding driver-led pricing to all of California. And the subheadline says, some fear new change will become a race to the bottom amongst drivers. Now, here's the thing. Uber letting drivers more or less set their own rates is not entirely new. They've actually done it in a few cities starting in January. They were testing it out, and they're doing this because, AB5 got passed into law, and they're trying to show that AB5 does not apply to them, that their drivers are still independent contractors, and of course they're fighting it tooth and nail, but they're also putting the building blocks there just in case we don't repeal AB5 in the fall, which, personally, I'm leaning very strongly towards not appealing it. But, we'll see, because AB5 also affects me as a freelance journalist. But they have now decided that they are going to expand this program through all of California. We're, of course, going to go over what exactly this is and how it might not necessarily save Uber from AB5. So, but this article is written by Cyrus Farvar. Uber on Thursday said it would let drivers across the state of California set their own rates as a function of the company's price multiplier, used in Uber's so-called surge pricing. The move builds on a pricing experiment that began in January in Sacramento, Santa Barbara, and Palm Springs. Previously, drivers had no ability to set their own rates, which was one of the primary critiques of proponents of AB5, the state law that took effect at the beginning of the year. The law attempts to ensure that so-called gig economy workers are considered employees rather than independent contractors. Now, I'm going to pause and I'm going to slightly disagree with that statement. Although there are some people who wanted AB5 to ensure that they were employees as opposed to independent contractors, there was actually a fair amount of people who supported AB5 because they felt that AB5 would force Uber to make them true independent contractors, not just independent contractors in name only. Because remember, you are not an independent contractor. You are not setting your own rates. You can be deactivated for no reason. You do not have any defense. You cannot build a personal clientele with people not using the Uber platform. What was my first? Oh yeah, you have to wear a mask. I mean, I think you should wear the mask anyway, but you have to wear a mask. If you're not wearing a mask, you can get deactivated. You're not an independent contractor. But what AB5 was supposed to do is they're supposed to force Uber and Lyft and Postmates and DoorDash, of course, to give up some of these restrictions so that you could truly be an independent contractor in name and in spirit. So that's my comment on that. Under state labor law, employees are eligible for consideration benefits, including workers' compensation, unemployment, unionization, rights, and more. Numerous companies, including Uber, save millions annually by avoiding such financial costs. In a response to emailed questions, Uber spokesman Matthew Wing did not deny that the company's expansion of pricing flexibility is in response to AB5, which is probably the first time they've actually, acknowledged such a thing. Quote, the reality is the overwhelming majority of drivers have said in survey after survey, including one conducted last month, that they prefer working independently, he wrote, linking to a June survey that Uber commissioned. Now, I'm going to comment again on these surveys because the thing is these surveys are a little deceptive because what they do is they ask questions that basically tilt the survey in Uber's response. They say, hey, would you prefer to work independently? Like, would you prefer to get on and off whenever you want, or would you prefer to have a set schedule? Well, I prefer to work whenever I want. Okay, would you prefer to have to work 40 hours a week, or would you prefer to work whenever you want? Well, I would prefer to work whenever I want. It's kind of like the new Green Deal thing. When they did surveys for the new Green Deal, and I know I'm getting a little political, but hear me out. They would go to people and they say, are you in favor of cutting emissions that are used to pollute the air? Well, yes, I am. It's like, are you in favor of using solar power as opposed to gas and hydrogen? Well, yes, I am. So those are the questions they would ask at that survey. But if you went and you told people what it really was and you asked, okay, are you in favor of grounding all air travel around the world? No. Okay, are you in favor of ceasing gas vehicles in 1 year and being forced to buy a new vehicle? No. Are you in favor of tearing down all this infrastructure? And so these surveys are always a little bit skewed because they're worded in ways that are usually going to, be positive for the people taking them. Like if you ask like the real questions that people really need to ask for these surveys to be fair, then the results would be different. So I don't put a lot of... I do believe that people do want to stay independent, but if you started asking the nitty-gritty, like, do you believe you should be able to build your own clientele outside of Uber? Well, yes. It's like, okay, well, you can't do that on Uber's app, so you're not an independent contractor. Anyway, let's continue. Legal experts say that the new pricing change is unlikely to convince a court that AB5 does not apply to Uber, which is interesting. So Lorena Gonzalez, who, by the way, Lorena Gonzalez has got to stay off Twitter, by the way. Uber's latest attempts to pretend drivers are setting their own rates to circumvent AB5 are woefully deficient. I probably mispronounced that, sorry. Uber drivers are employees and deserve a minimum wage, overtime, unemployment insurance, and workers' compensation. The Attorney General of California sued Uber and Lyft in early May, alleging that the companies are not in compliance with the law. Now, Mark Ackhorn, a deputy attorney for the city of San Diego, which is also party to the General's lawsuit, suggested that pricing modification is another way that Uber is trying to skirt the law. I would say that Uber continues to show great flexibility in modifying and adapting both their business model and the working relationship with their drivers, yet somehow refuse to put on the creative thinking cap to figure out how to provide flexibility to employees. Now, Uber, Lyft, and other related companies have continued to resist AB5, obviously, and they are also spearheading the proposed law, Proposition 22, that would effectively create a gig worker carve-out in AB5, basically meaning that, gig workers would not apply to AB5, which, of course, that would be a huge defeat for AB5 proponents because AB5 was written with the gig economy in mind. Now then, what about these price changes? Well, labor advocates argue that Uber maintains control over its drivers and as such should be considered their employee. They say when Uber experimented with these price changes in Sacramento, drivers reported that this resulted in lower overall wages because the calculus that went into choosing a multiplier pit them against one another, which I'm going to say right now, yeah, that's kind of one of the things about being an independent contractor. That's one of the things about being your own boss. There's no universal price, and you have to decide whether or not you want to undercut the competitor at the price point or if you want to take that, hold off and see if people will pay you more money for the same service. It's just reality of the world. It became a literal race to the bottom. The larger point here is one of control. Uber can put out this feature today and they can take it away tomorrow, which is true. There's nothing saying that Uber will keep it forever, and in fact, Uber has given out features to drivers in the past only to take them away. Case in point, during the 180 days of change, in which, by the way, I think in the long term, all of those changes were reversed except for the tipping. They gave drivers up to 10 filtered destinations, I believe. It was 8 or 10, something like that. And then they cut them back down to 2 or 4, like a week or two later, because drivers were obviously using that to their benefit, and you can't actually have drivers using features for their benefit. So anyway, yeah, they can take it away. As a practical matter, this is what makes them the employer, which I agree with. Now then, so what, the Harry Campbell here, oh wait, no, this is not Harry Campbell. This is still Uber. Or is it William Gold? Sorry. William Gold, a law professor at Stanford University and a chairman of the National Labor Relations Board during the Clinton administration, said that even though Uber may be allowing drivers some flexibility, it doesn't get the company fully out of AB5 territory. Quote, there's not really an arm's length autonomy that you would expect if you were an independent contractor. And it's not yet clear how drivers feel given how new the change is, which I'm sure if you're in the chat room, we can, and you have some thoughts about this, now's your time to actually share what those thoughts are. He wrote, it's still early in the process as we just made this available statewide today. The Rideshare Guy, a blog run by an Uber driver, recently did a post which includes their thoughts and reactions from a local driver. The author of that post, Jay Crater, who seems like a nice guy, by the way, wrote that he wasn't fully convinced that the change would be beneficial to drivers. My concern remains that this new feature will ultimately lead to a race to the bottom. Those drivers who are charging 2 times and not getting as many rides will eventually lower their rates so they can earn more revenue. And that is true. That is absolutely true. But I hate when that happens. So here's the thing. I think that the multiplier thing where drivers can charge more money on top of what they're doing is good. But it is true, there is a race to the bottom mentality. There's a race to the bottom mentality that, might just be, it's going to be difficult. I mean, we are just, but it's not exactly new. Now let me pull something up. I probably should have pulled this up sooner, but I didn't think about it at the time. But let's go, and I hate using this as an example, but it's a good example. Let's go with this Singing in the Rain 60th Anniversary Collector's Edition Blu-ray and DVD combo pack. Now, these are third-party sellers selling this item. And by the way, I am not one of these sellers. I mean, I am on Amazon as a seller, but I'm not going to share what my Amazon store is. If you want to buy stuff from me, go to Great Media Universe at Shopify. But anyway, as you can see, there's different prices. Now, there's also various different degrees of conditions, but here's the bottom line. The low price is very clearly stated. If you were to pick up this item and try to sell it on Amazon, then you could see what the low price is and you can undercut it. But you have to make that decision okay, so this seems to be the lowest price, $27.87. And I'm running my own business. Now, am I going to undercut that and sell it for $27.49 or $26.99 if you really want to catch people's attention? Or am I going to sell it more like this? Hey, I sell a premium item because unlike this, which is very good, mine is like new. So I'm going to sell it for more money. And you kind of have to think that way as an Uber driver as well. Hey, are you going to provide a premium experience and are you going to charge what it's worth? And are you willing to give up some of those rides that you will inevitably lose to people who just want the cheapest price possible? And here's the thing, this is also what's part of being an independent contractor. This is one of the things about running your own business. You will have people that undercut you. But if you provide a quality service and people respond to it, you can get your business without having to stoop to the lowest common denominator. Now, there are still features missing on the Uber app that would allow you to do that from my perspective. Like I said, you can't save, like riders can't save their favorite drivers in their phone. They can't, there's no building a business outside of Uber. You're dependent on Uber's algorithm. So, and Uber wants that. They want that. They want it to be where it's like, okay, you're allowed to set your own rates, but you're still not able to build your own business. You can't have your own clients. And so as a result, if you're charging a livable wage and there's a bunch of people that are not charging that livable wage, the vast majority of people are only going to see the price. And as a result, the people who charge more, who might even be providing the better service, they will also start lowering their price to compete with those people. So, and as some people point out, you're technically still not setting your own rates. It's a multiplier. So, this is I think this is, of course, positive long term. Long term, this is more positive than negative. And of course, if AB5 does not get repealed, then it still gives drivers more leeway. But I still think Uber exerts way too much control over the drivers for them to still be considered truly independent contractors. But hey, that's just my opinion. What about all of you out there, though? What do you think about this? Like, are you glad that this multiplier is finally being expanded to the rest of California? Are you going to take advantage of it? I would like to know what your thoughts on this are. So, there's a chat room and there's a comment section below. So like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Now then, I see we have 21 people joining us early in the morning for this live stream. Thank you so much. I am glad to see you here. We have got a few more topics for you. But hey, before we get to them, if you could please consider giving me a thumbs up, that would be a great thing because it really helps with the algorithm and everything. Because the YouTube algorithm, like the Uber algorithm, is something that you kind of live and die on YouTube. So, comments, likes, shares, all that jazz really, really helps. That actually supports me a lot more than sending a few dollars in super chats. So anyway, with that said, though, let's move on to main topic number 2. Now, the second main topic is kind of a funny one because, we're all indoors. Well, not all. Like some people, we started to slowly reopen. We're starting to close again. But during the initial lockdown period, a lot of us were streaming a lot of stuff. And in fact, I think it's interesting that during the lockdown, we had more streaming services come around than any other time I could think of. And it made perfect sense. People are stuck at home. They want to watch things. I mean, they're probably willing to pay for services that they would normally not do. I mean, Starz offered me 6 months of their service for $25, and I said, yeah, take it. I mean, I've only watched a few things on it, but what the heck? I mean, I might as well. Well, one of the services that launched was Quibi. Now, Quibi stands for Quick Bites. And Quibi is the brainchild of Jeffrey Katzenberg, former animation head of Disney Feature Animation and former CEO of DreamWorks Animation. And he decided he wanted to reinvent television by giving high-quality premium content like you would see on YouTube, like in 10-minute or less increments on a phone. That was his whole thing. He was taking YouTube and he wanted to make it a premium feature. And it was designed particularly for people on commutes and maybe even Uber and Lyft drivers who maybe were parked and they needed to do something while they wait for their next ride. You could watch like a little quick bite of entertainment, which you could also do on YouTube, I would argue, and it's free, but Well, anyway, one of the things that Quibi did when they launched was they offered a 90-day free trial to the service, which, by the way, I signed up for. And I selected, should I decide to continue with the subscription, I would pay $8 a month to not have the ads. Now, here's the thing. At the end of the 90 days, the 2 shows that I really liked the 3 shows I really liked were the LeBron James documentary, the documentary about the mayor of Maine, I believe it was, and Reno 911. I ultimately decided it wasn't really worth keeping those, so I canceled it. Well, it turns out that a lot of people didn't keep their Quibi subscriptions. Now, how much do you think canceled? Do you think Quibi lost 10% of their subscribers? Maybe 20, maybe 30. Maybe it's a worst case scenario. They lost half their subscribers. But no, it's pretty dire. They lost more than 90% of their subscribers after the free trial, the 90-day free trial ended. In fact, more specifically, they lost roughly 92% of the people who subscribed to this thing. And the funny thing is, of that 8%, I wonder how many of them paid for it simply because they forgot to cancel it, which is why you should always put in your calendar a reminder to cancel things. So anyway, let's look at this real quick. So Quibi, the video streaming service that no one asked for, has apparently only covered about 8% of early users into paying subscribers, or converted. I think they forgot the T. According to a report from mobile analytics firm Sensor Tower via The Verge. That means of the supposed 910,000 people who downloaded Quibi in the app's early days, only about 72,000 decided to continue after their 3-month trial period ended. That 92% drop-off rate is yikes. To be fair, an 8% conversion rate isn't horrible on its own. But when you compare Quibi's launch to, say, Disney Plus, it starts to look a bit sad. Sensor Tower's data says that Disney Plus converted 11% of free trial users into subscribers. Not so much more than 8%, right? Well, no, Disney Plus converted 11% of an initial 9.5 million downloads in its first 3 days from the use in Canada. As of May, Variety reports that Disney has 54.5 million subscribers and app downloads skyrocketed 74% in the U.S. over the July 4th weekend, thanks to the hip-hop musical Everybody Won't Shut Up About. Now, they, of course, went on to point out a lot of things, that numbers for launch day were dismal. The app didn't support casting to your TV, which is actually kind of the main reason I decided not to. Well, that was the second main reason I decided not to continue. The other being that I don't think the shows were really that great, to be honest. The streaming service had its first data leak within the first few months. Jeffrey Katzenberg and CEO Meg Whitman apparently mesh as well as oil and water. They both took 10% pay cuts. Katzenberg publicly, there was a lot of things that went wrong. But anyway, this was sad. So Quibi is not doing well. Now, I saw a friend on Twitter kind of asking at one point, what do you think is going to fold first, the DC universe or Quibi? And I actually thought that the DC universe would fold first because, they were already canceling shows and they're moving them to HBO Max. So I kind of figured that would be the safe bet that DC Universe would go first. But after reading about those numbers, I'm not so convinced anymore. I'm not so convinced. I think that, maybe Quibi is really... Maybe they're really not going to last that long. Maybe they're on the chopping block a lot faster than I initially thought. It's just like crazy. So I don't know. I thought that was sad. That was just absolutely sad that happened. So anyway, quick bites. Quibi, which stands for Quick Bites, should probably stand for Quickly Bit the Dust. I don't know. Anyway, I'd like to know, what do you guys think about that? Have any of you tried Quibi? Are any of you interested in trying Quibi right now? I would like to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. Now, before we move on to the next topic, I do want to say hi to some people that are in here now. We have Anthony, we have Naz, we have Stevie Kirby, we have Low Roller Scratcher, we have Mark, we have Debbie, Dad Egg, which is an awesome name, by the way. one second, folks. And we have George here. Yeah, so welcome, guys. Thank you all for joining us for this. Debbie says Uber won't launch this in all cities. They aren't stupid. Well, and they don't want to launch it here in California. Let's be honest. They don't want to premiere it. They didn't want to bring it here anyway because why? Well, here's the thing. They just have to. They just have to. That's what it is. So, there's yeah, if they don't have to do it, of course they won't. But So anyway, let's. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted here for a second, but we won't. Oh, Leon, yeah, sure. Hey, Leon, how you doing? Thank you for joining us. So, I'm actually gonna skip that story and let me take a little. One of the new things I've been trying is this new buy stuff. I'm trying to drink this instead of sugary drinks, obviously. And my doctor actually spoke very highly of it. Said, yeah, it doesn't taste too bad, and unlike most sugar-free drinks, this one actually isn't terrible for you, and I'm happy to hear that. Now then, with that out of the way, let's talk about main topic number 3. By the way, give a thumbs up if you're new here. If you just got here, it would really help. And our third main topic, we're actually going to follow up a little bit on a discussion we did about the social media video platform TikTok. Now, I was actually really surprised that a lot of you reacted very, very positively to the TikTok discussion. Because TikTok, which I have never used and I will probably never use at this point, is another video sharing format. It's wildly different from YouTube. It's basically what happens if, I kind of consider TikTok to be like a video platform for people who do memes and for people who have very, very short attention spans, and also for people who are, frankly, a little narcissistic to a certain extent. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's like, I don't know if you've seen the OK Boomer Girl. I don't know if that was exactly a TikTok exclusive, but it certainly really, really caught up on TikTok, where she's going whatever you say, Boomer. And then you look at her other videos, and all she's doing is she's just dancing, and it's like, this is not for me. This is not for me. But the reason we were discussing it was not because I, frankly, am perplexed by why TikTok is a thing, but because TikTok is actually considered a potential security threat now. In fact, many hackers and programmers have classified the app as spyware because they reverse engineered it and discovered that TikTok was consistently copying your viewing history, your passwords, usernames, and it was sending them off somewhere. Now, of course, TikTok denied that, saying, hey, we have U.S. servers, we have a U.S. CEO, Kevin Myers, who used to work for Disney. But they, of course, didn't actually respond to but why is the app copying information and stuff? Well, anyway, in a topic that I've actually got all sorts of different feelings on, Amazon is banning TikTok from employees' phones, citing security risks. And oh boy, is this a confusing one for me. So here's what the article says. Amazon is requiring employees to remove the popular video sharing app TikTok from their mobile devices immediately due to security concerns, according to an internal email shared on Twitter and the New York Times. Quote, due to security risks, the TikTok I like how they put TikTok. The TikTok app is no longer permitted on mobile devices that access Amazon email, the company said Friday in an email to employees. So, there's and they say here's the email. Actually, they've got a picture of it apparently. Let's look at this on Twitter. So here's the email. All right, so here's the email. Action required mandatory removal of TikTok by 10 July. Hello. Due to security risks, the TikTok app is no longer permitted on mobile devices that access Amazon email. If you have TikTok on your device, you must remove it by the 10th of July to retain mobile access to Amazon email. At this time, using TikTok from your Amazon laptop browser is allowed. I do not know why, because I assume that it works the same. To learn more, view the policy. Now here's where I've got like mixed feelings about this. Although I do understand where Amazon's coming from. I do understand where Amazon's coming from because they're like, hey, you know what? We have a company email, and the TikTok app has been discovered copying information from email and stuff like that. So if you have access to Amazon email on your mobile device, then you must remove it. It's a security threat. Now, here's where I get a little confused and it's a little more murky for me. First of all, for some reason, they are still allowing the TikTok browser on there, which, in all fairness, if it's a browser, TikTok doesn't control Chrome or Edge or Firefox or anything like that, so maybe it's safer to use it on the browser, but I don't know. But it's also kind of weird because here's the thing. If TikTok is on your phone, like it's your personal device, like, should Amazon be telling you what to do with your personal device? Like, that's a gray area for me. Like, if it's a company phone, I totally understand. In fact, if it's a company phone, maybe you shouldn't be putting anything but the bare necessities on there anyway. But yeah, the fact that Amazon's concerned enough that they're saying, hey, yeah, we technically don't have any control of your life, but yeah, if you're checking Amazon email on your phone, then take TikTok off. That's a very, very complicated one. I will admit. I totally understand why Amazon is doing this. I totally get why they would require this. So, but is them telling people what they can and can't have on their own phone like a step too far in looking at their employees' personal lives? Because, I always get a little nervous when companies, and of course I don't trust Amazon anyway, so obviously this applies to Amazon, but I always find it weird when companies start looking at like your personal stuff you're doing in your personal time. Like, okay, what are you saying on Facebook? What are you doing on Twitter? What are you watching on YouTube? Like, it's always creepy that companies feel like they need to do this, that they have to pay attention to you on that. But anyway, Amazon is asking people who have access to Amazon email on their phones to take TikTok off their phone. And that at the very least, that's a huge publicity blow to TikTok. I mean, TikTok is really not popular. Well, it's popular, but it's like not in a good standing with a lot of people right now. And stories like this certainly don't help that matter. However, I would like to ask all of you out there what you think about this. Do you think Amazon has a right to ask this of people? Do you think they do, or do you think they're overstepping their boundaries, or, like, what is your stance on this? This one's like a tricky one. So I would like to know what you think. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. And now then, with that out of the way, let's talk about main topic number 4. And our fourth main topic, interestingly, is about censorship. Now, I've discussed this several times on this show. I know that some people don't care. I think it's actually really important because we live in an age of cancel culture. And in an age of cancel culture, you cannot trust your media with the big companies. I know a lot of people have switched to digital. Like, they just stream things, they buy their stuff digitally. But the problem with buying your stuff digitally is that it can be altered, it can be removed. In fact, I remember how 10 years ago I bought the Toy Story movies on Blu-ray 3D, and with those Blu-ray 3Ds came digital codes that I could redeem and put them on my digital locker. And I did that. Now, here's the thing. About a year ago, it came to people's attention that in Toy Story 2, there is a couch casting gag in the blooper reel that has been removed from Disney+. Now, that concerned me because, well, I don't think you should be censoring movies like that. I don't think you should. So I went to Vudu, where my copy had been redeemed for 10 years, and I watched that part of the movie. And sure enough, that joke had been removed. Now, that code came with my physical copy, and my physical copy is obviously still has the gag. But if I had bought that movie digitally, they still would have altered the movie without even consulting me first, because they have the right to do that. You're not owning it, you're renting it. And so Timothy P. Carney, a senior columnist for the Washington Examiner, wrote this opinion piece that I actually agree with quite a bit, and it's something you really should consider. Now, have you bought an ebook of Coming Apart by Charles Murray? I think a better example would have been Animal Farm by George Orwell, but you know. Or maybe you bought Gone with the Wind on some video streaming service. Perhaps you've paid for Hamilton, The Simpsons, or Shakespeare's Othello in digital format. Are you ready for them all to disappear from your digital library for being problematic in the eyes of Amazon, Google, or Apple? That's a live question in a cancel culture where corporate America seems to be uniformly on the idea of the left-wing culture warriors. It's also a great reason for you to build up your real-life library of books, records, DVDs, CDs, newspapers, and other physical media. HBO temporarily pulled Gone with the Wind from its streaming service. We've talked about that several times on the show. That's not a huge deal, especially since they later put it back up. But it's easy... Sorry, it moved. But it's easy to see the early rise of a wave of cancelizations in which big tech just erases problematic stories or songs or movies or any work by problematic authors or creators. If you tried to pay for the entire run of The Simpsons, you probably found that an episode with Michael Jackson was removed from the supposed completed works. One of the creators had an unsettled defense that, I'm against book burning of any kind, but this is our book and we're allowed to take out a chapter. That was James L. Brooks. He knew what he was doing was wrong. Unfortunately, similar reasoning applies to the platform owners. Amazon, Google, Apple cannot come to your house and torch your CDs. But as long as you're using their virtual bookshelf, they can remove chapters that clash with their worldview. YouTube regularly pulls videos for ideological violations or videos that clash with proclamations of politicized and corrupted multinational entities. Amazon has made similar decisions. It's not far-fetched to imagine your digital content disappearing. Apple could just decide to erase that Pogues song for a bad word. Poof, gone. Amazon could remove Mel Gibson works that you thought you owned. Certainly any and all Charles Murray books could be canceled. Facebook is under immense pressure to take down content because it's too Trumpy. And for those of you who are not aware of what that means, and I was tempted to talk about this in a video, but I didn't because I was afraid of the backlash. But you know what? I'm kind of beyond the backlash. So what's going on is that basically, Twitter was starting to fact check what Donald Trump was doing, which I don't know what gives Twitter the authority to do that, but whatever. Well, they wanted Facebook to start taking down not only problematic stuff that Trump was writing, but problematic Trump supporters who really supported Trump and said these people are hateful and everything. And I am not going to get into that, only to say that not all Trump supporters are hateful people. They are not. It's just factually not true. And Mark Zuckerberg basically said we're not going to do that. That's a freedom of speech issue, and we are not going to take it down. And that resulted in a boycott of Facebook, where Facebook has now lost over $8 billion worth of advertisers. Now, I don't like Mark Zuckerberg, and I have huge issues with Facebook, but I actually respect Mark Zuckerberg quite a bit because his response was pretty much, yeah, whatever, you'll be back. And he's standing up to the Twitter mob, as it's called. Like, people want him to censor and cancel, and he said no. I respect him for not doing that. However, the point remains that Facebook, along with many companies, are pressured to take things down that are problematic. Now, Twitter says it will pull down your tweets if you violate their ideological rules. And that's actually true. I mean, you can watch videos by Tim Pool to find out how that works, but Twitter has listed certain things, like if you say something like this, it is considered hate speech in Twitter's eyes, which most rational people look at says, but that's actually a difference of opinion. So anyway, The disappearance of your digital media is something commentators have long warned about. You don't really own your digital books. What's to stop them from canceling problematic chapters or works or entire authors? Michael Brendan Dowtry made the point on Twitter a few weeks back where he wrote, "The mania for political revision and excision makes me wonder how long it will be until owning physical media that can't be re-edited by major corporations is considered suspicious." Sunday night, the Washington Post brought that concern back to the forefront with a story that incidentally highlighted the differences between cancelable digital media and less cancelable physical books. The Washington Post promoted the piece with a tweet that sounded like an endorsement of book burning. And here's what the Washington Post wrote this. Perspective. While offensive TV shows get pulled, problematic books are still inspiring debate and conversation. Well, yes, Washington Post, that is what, books are supposed to do. Now, you can consider them problematic. Like, for example, I know a lot of people who consider Atlas Shrugged to be a problematic book. I do not think it's a problematic book. I just think it's a really, really poorly written one, in my opinion. That was one of the hardest books to finish. I'm sorry. But here's the thing. Someone says it's problematic, and you can read it and say, yes, I agree it's problematic, or no, I don't think it's problematic, or some people can say, I don't think it's either. I think it's just badly written. But what you want to do, what happens is that person who thinks it's problematic, they would want to get rid of the book. Now, here's the thing. I actually typically go to sleep watching Family Guy. And there's an awful episode of Family Guy called Not All Dogs Go to Heaven. And in my opinion, this episode was like a complete bait and switch. They sold it on the fact that the cast of Star Trek The Next Generation was going to be in it. And the storyline was about how Brian came out to an atheist to the town people. And that his rationalization for God not existing was basically because Meg was ugly. And it's a pretty bad episode. It doesn't make a very good case for anything. And it's not funny. But there's a scene near the end, and it shows a bunch of church people burning problematic books. So they're burning The Origin of Species, A History of Time, and Common Sense for First Graders. And yet when I see, and of course the point is clear that you're not supposed to be burning these books. I mean, even if you don't agree with the books, there's value to them still, and there's a discussion to be had. And yet Twitter does not seem to care about canceling problematic works, and it's concerning that the Washington Post is actually talking like, problematic books are still inspiring debate and conversation, when that's why I love reading, because it should inspire debate or conversation. Like, what are they saying? That basically they don't want the debate and conversation? They just want people to feel this way without understanding why they feel this way? It's ridiculous. Now, this art opinion continues. The story itself suggests nothing of the sort. Instead, it offers an, at the times, weak-kneed defense of problematic books, which is good. Is Othello a racist play, or is it a fledgling critique of racism, the writer asks. And most important, is that a distinction we're willing to investigate more? Maybe the Washington Post social media managers quietly lament that they can't cancel the J.K. Rowling, Joseph Ratzinger, or Wendy Berry tomes on your shelf, or maybe they were trolling for hate clicks. Nevertheless, with digital erasure blooming, it's time to stock up on DVDs, CDs, and most importantly, books. The more problematic, the better. And yeah, so I totally agree. And, again, it's not even the first time. Like 7 years ago, there was a real life situation where Amazon, because of course it's Amazon, decided that for whatever reason, they didn't want to let people keep their digital books of Animal Farm by George Orwell, or 1984. And they removed those books from people's devices, and people noticed, and they didn't get refunds because they're not entitled to refunds. You agree in the user terms that they can do that. So this is a problem, and I think it's getting worse and worse and worse. So that's one of the reasons I still buy physical media. That's one of the reasons I still buy physical media. Now, I do buy a little bit of digital media, I will admit, but but I will still always prefer having a physical copy of something that I really want to revisit because I just don't want to be taken away. In fact, something that happened fairly recently with the Surviving R. Kelly docuseries was that Lady Gaga decided that she did not want her duet with R. Kelly to be on the Art Pop album anymore, so she removed it. Now, if you go to any streaming service, it's not there unless you go to YouTube. So there's, bootlegged copies of it all the time there. But I have it on CD, and Lady Gaga cannot take that away. And granted, it's not the best song on the album, but the fact that the songs are created carefully, they're selected in a certain order. Putting together an album is an art in and of itself. And the fact that you would just so easily remove a chapter, if you will, thus interrupting the flow of the album, concerns me, especially since when she worked with R. Kelly, the allegations weren't exactly secret. They were well known. But anyway, that's my thoughts on that. What do you think? Are you concerned about the digital future and what this means for free speech? I'd love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Now then, let's get to our final topic, and it's interesting that we were talking about cancel culture, and let's go back to this article one more time. Let me go down here. And it ends with it saying, nevertheless, with digital erasure blossoming, it is time to stock up on DVDs, CDs, and most importantly, books. The more problematic, the better. It's very fitting that that's how they ended that article. Because after I read that, I was kind of curious, okay, what is the state of physical media in America? I mean, cancel culture is clearly a threat to our history, our art. I do believe that Twitter, if it had its way, would look at my Best Picture winning shelf and say, get rid of All Quiet on the Western Front. Get rid of Cimarron. Get rid of The Great Ziegfeld. Get rid of Rebecca. Get rid of Ben-Hur. Get rid of Lawrence of Arabia. Get rid of West Side Story. They would ask to get rid of a lot of these things because there are problematic elements that are outdated. But they're on my shelf, and as long as I have a working disc player, which I think disc players will still be around for a long time. People say, well, what happens when all the manufacturers stop making them? Well, look, Nintendo hasn't made the Super Nintendo for a very, very long time. And there are people making knockoff consoles that can play SNES cartridges. So I'm not concerned about that. That said, the state of physical media, at least when it comes to movies, is not looking good. So this is the digital bits. And by the way, I do converse with Bill Hunt on Twitter sometimes. He follows me. He's a really good guy. And he decided to do some research about what physical media was selling like. Now then, at one point he states, now as many of you know, I've reported previously on the yearly decline of physical media sales. But if you've missed it, here are the gory details. Physical movie disc sales have dropped every year for the last 9 years, and in the last 3 years by double-digit percentages. Per the DEG, the decline was 18% in 2019, 14.6% in 2018, 14.1% in 2017, 9.6% in 16, 12, and 15, 10, and 14, 8, and 13, 5, and 12, and 12.3 and 11. And that's not good. And that is the reality disc fans are facing. We here at The Bits don't like it any more than you guys do because we're movie and disc fans first and foremost. But those are the numbers. That knowledge is what motivated my recent feature. Well, we'll talk about that in a moment. Now then, the reason this article came up was because they were kind of seeing, during the pandemic, if there was a boost to physical media sales. And, well, for a few weeks, disc sales were up. They were up. But they ultimately ended up going down. And in fact, the most recent update, which is 6/27, that disc sales were down 23.20%. This is not a great trend if you want your stories and your art to be protected. Now, this does raise the question, well, okay, so physical media is probably going to die at some point. What is the alternative. Like, what can we do to protect our stuff in the future? And that might be Kaleidescape. Now, this is not a sponsored video, and I have not dealt with this personally, but I read this article, and this is a fascinating way to look at the whole digital thing. Now, as a little bit of a reference, this is what VHS players used to look like. They had laser disc and they had DVD. And then, like, here's kind of like the biggest problem with physical media. Whenever they create like a new format, you have to rebuy your movie. So it's like, okay, here's a DVD, here's a Blu-ray, and here's a 4K. If you bought them brand new, they were $20 to $30 each time. So, you're paying a lot of money to basically buy one movie over and over and over again. But, and here's the thing, these devices, while convenient, do not offer the best quality necessarily. So this is what Kaleidescape is doing. They want to bring digital ownership to the home in a premium theater experience. As stated in this article, essentially, Kaleidescape is a company dedicated to delivering a luxury home theater experience. Their goal is to provide the absolute best quality movie viewing option that's possible in the home. And since the company's founding in 2001, they focus on developing the trust within the film industry and the custom and robust technical engineering on the hardware side required to achieve that goal. And the way that this works is that they sell you these streaming devices, some of which have disk drives, by the way. They want to make having the discs an option. And you can buy your movies. You can buy your movies. You can see, like, right there. And first of all, they start by obtaining the very best source material possible, the Hollywood studio mezzanine files for each film, and using a proprietary process they've developed in-house, they create a master quality digital version of that film that's designed bit for bit to preserve the maximum picture and sound fidelity. That film then becomes available on Kaleidescape's online movie store, which you see right here, where customers can purchase access to it in perpetuity for prices that are roughly comparable to the corresponding disc version. But once purchased, rather than streaming that film in a highly compressed format, the movie file is downloaded in its entirety to Kaleidescape's Strato movie player, or Terra movie server. The Strato is a disc-less movie player, a sleek-looking silver and black hard drive that fits neatly into your home theater. It currently comes in two sizes, one with a 6 terabyte hard drive and one with a 12 terabyte. And by the way, I saw on their website, because I was on their website, that there are some that have 40 terabytes. But you don't need to worry about storing all your films you purchase from Kaleidescape locally. They exist in the company's online cloud as well. Every movie purchase you make is always available in your account, accessible for download at any time. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying this is going to completely make me feel comfortable buying digital movies completely. Because, there's still that concern about what happens with problematic material, and I think one of the reasons studios want to go digital is because they basically don't want to sell you their movies. They want to control it. You're just renting them. So there's always going to be that concern unless there are laws that specifically state that digital copies can't be taken away from you or altered without your consent first. But I have to say, this seems pretty nice. Like, even the quality, like, look, Disney's physical Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker 4K release comes on a 66 gigabyte disc. The Kaleidescape 4K download is 80.8 gigabytes. Avengers Infinity War comes on a 66 gigabyte disc. The Kaleidescape 4K download is 86.3 gigabytes. Avengers Endgame comes on a 66 gigabyte disc, but the Kaleidescape is a whopping 103.3 gigabytes. So the difference is readily apparent to anyone attuned to high-end video quality. The added video data improves the color and dimensionality of the image considerably, and the added audio data improves the robust and spaciousness of the soundstage. I evaluate video quality for a living and have been looking at video professionally for over 30 years now. Trust me when I say this is the first time I have ever experienced anything better than 4K disc in my home theater. And by the way, I like this. Now, this is, of course, a niche product, but it looks like a very high quality niche product. And I have to say, if this is what the future of digital movies are going to look like, I'd probably feel a little bit more comfortable. It still doesn't answer my big concern about whether or not, this stuff can be taken away from you at one point. But it looks like the quality is good. If I definitely would want to look into getting a Kaleidescape player, one with a disc drive preferably. And who knows, because I have a pretty nice TV, but I know at some point, when we get our own house and everything, I will probably want to invest in a really big screen. I would probably want to invest in an IMAX screen, because if there's one thing I definitely love, it's my movies, and I want to watch it in the best way possible. Some people invest in expensive cars. I'll probably be investing in an expensive home entertainment theater. And Kaleidescape might just be what I need for convenience and quality and hopefully ownership. Especially since, hey, with 40 terabytes, a lot of those, I would just make sure that whatever movies I absolutely could not live without would always be downloaded somewhere. So it looks like Kaleidescape allows me to do that. But anyway, I would like to know what you all think about this. Does this sound like a product that you would be interested in? I would love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. And now, with that out of the way, let's get to the comments section, because I see there were a bunch of comments. And by the way, thank you all for joining me and watching live. If you haven't given a thumbs up yet, that would be great. But let's go over some of the comments. So, Michael Smith says, more PR BS from Uber. A multiplier isn't setting your own rates. Well, you can certainly debate that. That's for certain. Jeremy says, we're not setting our own rates. We're setting the multiple. Yeah, no, I eventually got to that. And Michael Smith says, Uber got fined $4 million in Denmark today. Really? Let me look at that. See what's going on. Oh, geez. You are right. So one more topic before we end, folks. But Uber has apparently agreed to pay $3.8 million Denmark fine over taxi law. Uber has agreed to pay a 25 million Danish crowns, which is 3 million pounds, fine in Denmark, settling claims of breaching local taxi law out of court, Danish police said on Friday. After launching its service in Denmark in 2014, Uber was criticized by taxi driver unions, companies, and politicians who said the company posed unfair competition by not meeting legal standard requirement for established taxi firms. So that's all that said, and well, I guess that's all you really need to say. It's pretty cut and dry, I would say, at that point, because Uber has basically said, this is kind of an admission of guilt that Uber did break some laws over the taxis, and yeah, so okay. So there you go. They had to pay a fine. What do you know? So yeah, there you go. Let's see here. Anthony says it was 6 destinations in Los Angeles. Okay, it was 6 destinations. My mistake. Rideshare Observer says, do you know when what the passenger is being shown when given options to pick a driver? Is it just the price, or are they giving information about the drivers, including their rating? I don't know for sure, but knowing Uber, I would suspect that the only thing that they're showing is the price, because that's what they're going to use to try to get everyone to voluntarily charge the lowest that they possibly can. Are you planning to drive for Uber? No, I'm not planning to drive for Uber, not during a pandemic. That said, I would probably, when the pandemic is over, if I could set the old multiplier, I would probably experiment with it just to see what it was like. Walmart entered the drive-in movie business. I read about that. And yeah, Walmart is launching their own Amazon Prime membership. I think that's going to be discussed on Monday. Mark says, just thumbs up. I appreciate that. Debbie says, Walmart will launch their own rideshare at this rate. Well, so will Amazon. Dad Egg says, Uber always have shady deals with the drivers. Don't trust anything they say. They always say smooth words, but the actions are horrible. I agree. Uber has proven time and time again to not be reliable when it comes to taking care of their drivers. George says, hi, Kevin. Well, hi, George. And we already talked about how Uber won't launch this everywhere. So Abstract Echo says, buy rocks. It does. I'm really enjoying it. Now, this is not my favorite flavor. This is the coconut. It's not my favorite flavor. But since I'm buying it from Costco and it comes with a few, you might as well drink it. Low Roller Scratcher says, I heard TikTok promoting Dogecoin for cryptocurrency. It went viral yesterday. Yeah, in fact, the funny thing is I actually bought some Dogecoin. Not a lot, just $20 worth because it was so cheap. But that's probably one of those pump and dump scams, I know. But, it's one of those, well, maybe. I mean, if it actually gets to $1, that's a lot of money. So who knows? I missed out on the Bitcoin craze. And, well, when I saw that, it's like, well, let's just put $20 into it and see what happens. Probably nothing will happen, but you never know. So, hey, Roger, how you doing? Mark says that would just TikTok me off. Funny. Low Ruler Scratcher said Amazon, Walmart, and other companies stop selling Washington Redskins merchandise. And I've got mixed feelings about that personally, but I'm not going to talk about it because, to be perfectly frank, I don't watch sports anyway, and I don't buy merchant gear and stuff like that. So I think that Redskins debate has been going on for years, and it's one that I've never really participated in. So I'm just not interested. But I heard about that, and I do have mixed feelings about that, just like I would any. Well, the big concern that I have is when all these big companies get together and like, oh yeah, we're going to stop selling this item over an ideological concern rather than letting the free market decide whether or not that merchandise should be pulled. So that's my biggest concern with it. Stevie Curbit said, Facebook stock seems fine for now. Well, yes, Facebook will be fine in the long run. The boycott won't hurt them. They're one of the biggest companies out there, and Facebook can wait it out. And yeah, advertisers will pull their money until it gets to the point where it's like, oh, but we're missing a lot of eyeballs, so yeah, they're going to go back. And like I said, I actually appreciate Mark Zuckerberg actually standing up for freedom for once. So Sherelle says, I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say Voltaire. I agree with that. That has always been my stance. I may disagree with you, but you have the right to say that. CinemaFan324 says AMC Regal should sue governors all around the country for not allowing to reopen. Theaters are safer than grocery stores. Well, I don't know if theaters are necessarily safer than grocery stores. I mean, right now they're safer than grocery stores because, guess what? The theaters are closed. But, just to let you know, if you want my opinion on that, you could go to one of my other channels, The Failed Journalist. Here it is, right here, and just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to give this a thumbs up. And this was from a podcast a couple days ago, but these are my thoughts on churches being allowed to reopen while movie theaters cannot, and how the movie theaters are suing New Jersey. Let's see here. Do I have any nasty comments yet? Let's see here. So I got a couple. It's going to be interesting. Let's actually look at these comments. So Jay Money says, you do realize that the government did not have the authority to cause churches to close, which is why they were the first allowed to reopen in most states. And the bigger issue I have with theaters not being allowed to be opened. If you look at most theaters today and you compare them to most modern churches, the setup is exactly the same. So this is why I think the theaters should be mad, because churches are allowed to open at full capacity with social distancing in place, but theaters are not, and that makes no sense. Well, that's more or less what I said in the video. You read comments like that and you wonder sometimes, like, if they watched the whole thing. And Jamison Andrews said, dude, as a Christian and a movie lover, I agree with you. It's hard to see the battle between being safe and going to church, where at my church, most are not wearing masks. So we are just doing the online thing still. I can't wait for the movies to open again. This is crazy time. I hope Regal Unlimited will still be a thing when it opens. It seems like it will be, by the way. I know he's not watching this right now. So yeah, if you want my thoughts on that whole thing, you can go to the Failed Journalist channel and check it out. So, are you planning on doing stock updates portfolio in your channel? Well, I'll do that real quick, because because yeah, I did make a couple of minor changes. Not much, not much. There frankly has not been much to discuss, and I'm of course gonna. I have to set this stuff all up off camera so that you don't see my personal information. But you know, but going back to my Robinhood profile, the account is over $5,000 again, and there's a few reasons for that. Nicola is on the rise again after dipping quite significantly for a week or so. Coca-Cola seems to be going up. AMC is trending up. Microsoft, even though it's a little down today, like it's much higher than it used to be. Things are starting to tick up a little bit. Barnes & Noble is doing really good, actually. I might have to buy some more of that. Plug is on the recovery. Papa John's is doing very well. I need to get more Papa John's stock. Ephesian Energy is on the rise again. I wanted to buy some at $50, but just because of the way we're doing this, I didn't. So I'm going to buy more of that soon. Now, I did sell my Virgin Galactic holdings because it finally went above, it did go above the price. So I only pocketed a few dollars on that one, but that's fine. Instead, I rebought it in Neo and Alt. Now, how are those doing after buying them for a couple days? Well, Neo is up, and Alt's a little down from when I purchased it, but it's still trending upward for the most part. See, I do have Doge. I have over 4,000 Doge coins, but it's kind of down. So, yeah, I might lose that $20. Who knows? But my Bitcoin is on the way up again. So, you know, that's what's going on. It's been a crazy month, though. Like, it was getting a little scary. This is where you wanted to rebuy a little, but it's on its way back up. Now, if you go for all time, it's still, and keep in mind, I sold some stock and everything, but this is how it looks. So it's still heading up for the most part. So there's my little stock portfolio update. If you want a free stock, there's a link below, a Robinhood link below. So let's see here. Kevin Anderson says, does that mean you are going to drive again when or if this virus ends? I will probably drive again, not full time, but I would probably drive to experiment with the set your own rates. It might, because here's the thing, if I can set my own rates and just do it when I want, then yes, it might be worth doing again. It's just the return on investment is nowhere remotely worth doing right now. So that's my thoughts. Let's see here. And Low Roller Scratcher says, you think AMC Stubs unlimited movie prices will go up next year? Yes, I do. CineFan324 says, how does one make money from Robinhood debit and or bank? And does it write off taxes? Dude, it's a good question. It's a very, 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 very complicated question. But here's the bottom line. You're not, strictly speaking, making money off Robinhood. Robinhood is just a stock trader. And you buy stocks at a price and you hope they go up. And they go up, you sell them for, you buy low, you sell high, you take your piece of the pie, as Schoolhouse Rock said, and you make some money. Now, you can also buy dividend-heavy stocks like Coca-Cola, Microsoft, Disney. I don't think Apple's one of them, where they will pay you dividends. And so some people just buy a little of these stocks over time so that the dividends start pouring in. And it's a tax write-off if, your stock completely bombs and you just lose money on it. But that is you should really consult with, a tax advisor for that question, because they could tell you exactly the ins and outs of that one. I'm not a financial expert. I'm just a commentator. Kevin says, you got to do more investing videos, Kevin. Yeah, I should. I really should. And I've been doing some investing videos. Kind of forgot for a little while, but, I will be doing more investing videos. So, 18 likes. Thank you, folks, for all the likes. I appreciate that. And thank you for all the comments. And thank you for spending time with me. We have actually surpassed an hour, though. So I like to try to keep these videos to an hour. But again, if you miss any topics, we will be separating them, cutting them up, and they will be on Monday going up on this channel, as well as the Apptrepreneur Vlogs channel, which you haven't subscribed to. Please do. In fact, if you let me show you, because this is the channel that you're on right now, but this is my other channel. And so if you go here, you'll get a whole bunch of different content. So, just that's a little news thing. You get some unboxing videos. You get first impressions. You have some long form editorials. Here's a couple of the topics from the podcast, and some unboxing, and so there some observational editorials. If you want to subscribe to the Apptrepreneur vlogs, it could definitely use some love. I'd like to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. So some of these topics will be winding up there as well. Anyway, that's where we are going to leave this episode, though. So thank you for joining us and taking your time to comment and like and all that jazz. We will do it again Monday. In the meantime, comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.